It is 3 o'clock. Again, is there anyone here for public comment? Okay. Pauline, Emily, Anikia, anyone here ready to begin?
Hey, Sean, I just saw you in the bottom of the. Oh, gosh. I don't like my background. No, let's just do roll call.
So since we have some time at the moment, I'm going to do roll call.
Okay.
So PTA? No one from PTA? P&O?
Here, Hannah Melnick.
Okay. That's it for P&O? PAC? DLAC? Dan Lindheim?
Wait a minute.
Berkeley High School Development Group? GSHAC?
GSHAC for Rebecca.
Okay. Natasha? Beatrice? Mildred?
Sorry, I'm driving. I'm here.
Okay. I thought I saw you. Mildred Chair?
I'm Erica, but Mildred is in our NPR. She should be over shortly.
Okay. Sean, I see you.
Yep, I'm here.
Yazid?
I'm here.
Frank Hernandez?
Here.
Matt Meyer? Regina? Lisa? I see you, Stephen. Renee Molina? And then we have Jules, our student. Is he here? Or she? I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm here for Renee Molina, representing Yuba.
Okay.
Jessica Lee. Thanks.
Jessica Lee. So if Renee comes on, Jessica, I think they're gonna vote on something, so he would have to vote, not you, but if he doesn't come on, then you vote, okay?
I understand. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So there's Kathy Fleming.
I am here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jill. Pauline. Anikia.
Here, thank you.
Trish. Samantha.
Here.
Debbie. Emily.
Here.
Jennifer. Did I miss any staff? I thought I saw Trish log on. Trish, are you here? Okay, so that's roll call. As I see people log on late, I'll just mark them. Thank you.
It also just looks like somebody has an AI note-taking assistant on. I just wanted to make sure that whoever has that is aware that that's happening.
Can that person identify themselves, please?
So sometimes for Google Meets, I understand it just comes up and we would just need to delete. And so just to the point, if someone has brought that or put that on, if you could let us know. Otherwise, we will remove it. As soon as I find it, I can't find it.
Excuse me, Superintendent. Ms. Hugendijk will be in shortly. She's getting ready to leave a meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Let me
So,
just click on the transcribed.
Erica, did I see you raise your hand?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to relay that same information that Mildred did.
Okay.
Hi, Miss Erica. Thank you.
Hello there, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
So let me reiterate, if there's anyone here for public comment, please identify yourself. Otherwise, unless you're a committee member, you cannot speak during the meeting. I don't mean not speak, but you can't make any public comment. Anything like, that's not correct.
Miss Vivian, it looks like the note taker is called Verso L's note taker. I think that is something that only you can
I'm looking for
take
that
off.
now.
I tried to take it off, but it said I cannot remove that participant. It's not the end of the world, but I know some folks makes them feel uncomfortable. But while Miss Vivian is doing that, we can go ahead and get started, as we do have a pretty packed agenda this afternoon. So good afternoon and welcome everyone. And thank you all for being flexible and making sure to make it to today's meeting that is starting an hour earlier than typical with a 3 o'clock start time. And if all things go right and well, we anticipate that we will be done by our regular 4:30 in time. So this is the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee meeting for today, March 26th. I am going to do a couple of opening moves, and then I will pause for Ms. Vivian to check and see if she hasn't already, if we have folks here for public comments. And so with that, next slide, please, Ms. Vivian. So always bringing you greetings on behalf of myself, our amazing staff, both our central and site staff of all different classifications, as well as our Board of Education, who you see here. Next slide. You may notice that there's a couple of other folks who are in this room who will not be voting. Various members of our district or central staff who are here to engage in the process, to hear from you, our SBAC members and public commenters, if applicable, so that we can take the information back and use it to inform our decisions regarding our budget. But these folks who you see on the screen are also here because they are in charge of supporting various departments and bodies of work here in BUSD. And so they might be ones who are answering questions or a part of the presentation. And oftentimes, if you have a question in the chat, any one of these folks who knows the answer might be the ones responding, not necessarily me or Pauline or Emily. Next slide, please. I'm just reminding you all of our meeting protocols. We are using Google Meet for this meeting. As Ms. Vivian said, that only the folks who are voting members of SBAC should be voting when it's time to vote, though we're not there yet. We will be making votes today. So I do hope that all of our SBAC members are here and can stay for the duration of the meeting. Similarly, if you are a non-voting member, we ask that you do not use the chat. We will stop again momentarily to allow for public comments if there are folks here for such. But otherwise, the entirety of the discussion, the conversations, be it live conversations or chat, should be reserved for those who are actually voting members, just to minimize confusion. And we also ask that our voting members should use the chat only in relation to whatever the agenda item is that is being discussed at that moment. We, again, are making votes today. So we are asking that all of our voting members follow our protocol, which is to put your name and the group that you represent as your name on your screensaver. I apologize that I nor staff has modeled that this afternoon. Mine just says my name, Pauline says her name. But if you could just please put your name and whichever advisory committee, labor partner, or organization you represent, that would be most helpful to us, but more importantly, helpful to folks who are here observing the meeting to know that you are actually voting members and you are oftentimes bringing their voice to the table. Next slide.
I don't think we can change our names on this.
That's a whole Zoom world thing, huh? Ms.
That's
Rebecca?
right.
Okay.
And so just so you know, it's not that we're not trying to be compliant. It's just that you can't do it.
If anyone were not trying to be compliant, it might have been you and Natasha, both of whom raised that point. But no, appreciate you for letting me know. I still am missing Zoom. So we will just let you keep your full names, but we will probably just make sure that if folks have any confusion, we can identify which group you represent. This is the toolbar for Google's Meets, and I'm going to come back to it later. You will need to use this bar this afternoon again as we are voting on some of the budget reduction strategies that we've discussed before. Next slide, reminding you all that this is your role and your purview, and appreciate that I've been to a number of advisory committees since we last met, and a lot of you all do a really good job of going back and sharing with your respective organizations, communities, and advisory committees the things that you've learned from SBAC. And that's really important. As we know, communication, despite us being in the age of technology, seems to get harder and harder. So the more that you can do your part by going back and sharing what you've learned, the better I think our process is. And more importantly, maybe equally as important, is for you to bring back the ideas and perspectives from the groups you represent to this meeting this afternoon. Grounding ourselves always, but very quickly, in our shared mission here in BUSD, which is really us centering the fact that we are here. Next slide, please, Vivian, to enable and inspire our diverse student body to achieve academic excellence and to make positive contributions to the world. And that even though we find ourselves in some challenging fiscal times, we are still committed to this mission, as well as the 4 E's. And we are making decisions to figure out how do we continue to move towards that mission and those E's, even though we might have to rethink how we actually do it as we are doing it within tighter budget, with a tighter budget. How about that? Okay, Pauline has linked the presentation inside of the chat for you to access. Really quickly, our agenda for this afternoon and the objectives. We're going to provide a little bit more clarification on the March 15th notices. That will be a brief update. We're going to do the opening moves, the last of which is for Ms. Vivian to do the public comments, which will come right after this. We're going to do a very brief update on the governor's budget. You recall we talked about a block grant or a potential block grant that BUSD will be receiving. And so Pauline has a very brief update on the status of that grant. And the majority of our meeting will be focused on our collective work to move towards our target. We're going to review a budget balancing roadmap. We're going to, if it's done. If not, we're going to tell you we're going to make it and come back to review it. We're also going to vote on phase 1 and phase 2 proposals. You might recall that over the last couple of sessions, we came to you all with some proposals and actually engaged in some discussion with you over those various proposals. And so we're going to bring those proposals back with some updates. And then we're going to ask that committee members only vote on which proposals they would like to advance as a budget balancing solution. Let me pause right there. There's an asterisk on this agenda for a reason, because even if the SBAC votes for one of these solutions or any of these solutions, please do not worry to mean that that is for sure what we're going to do. It means that we're just trying to collect, if you will, build a bank, if you will, of all the solutions that we have. We will definitely revisit all of the budget balancing solutions that this group has approved before I make the final budget and take it to the board. And the reason why that is because, as you know, we will see a lot more other proposals. We are still exploring how to generate funds, and we are still crossing our fingers very tightly that we might get some new or different news from the state. So we will have to revisit all of these solutions, but we need to know which ones are we good with and which ones do we no longer want to consider. So you will be voting today on that. And then we also have some phase 3 proposals to bring you. We will not be voting on phase 3. We're going to do phase 3 the same way we did phase 1 and phase 2, which is present them to you, give you time to ask questions and explore, and then we'll come back with more information and or ready to vote on those proposals as well. Finally, we're going to give you a quick update on how staff is tracking. You all have been sending in and emailing recommendations for reductions you would like us to explore or opportunities to generate revenue that you want us to look into. So we're going to just let you know how we're tracking that. And then we are going to tell you what we are doing next, or what we've been doing that will inform phase 4. With that, I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask Ms. Vivian to see if there's anyone here for public comments.
Okay, has anyone recently logged in that would like to make a public comment? That's not a committee member. Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you. Next slide, Ms. Vivian. Before jumping into the agenda as shared, there were a couple questions that came through to us via email. I believe that most of the advisory committee was copied on it. And we'll talk about protocols for email and advisory committee members at a future meeting. But I wanted to stop and acknowledge these questions. One is, what is the final budget reduction we're trying to achieve in each ongoing money? I'm sorry, and which is ongoing money and which is one-time monies? That question will be answered again throughout the course of today's session. So just stay tuned for that, and Pauline will flag it when she says it again. What are each individual budget line items and the sum of all the cuts we voted yes to and ongoing and one-time money? I want to clarify that the committee has not voted on any recommendations or proposals at all to this point. Today we will be, and for all of those items that the committee votes on, we will be clear and sure to show you what the cost of that particular line item is. Similarly, the next question is, what are each individual budget line items and the sum of potential cuts? Same thing. When we bring to you proposals for reduction strategies or even explore yours more fully, we try to always give you a dollar amount that goes with that particular proposal. We will do that again when we show you proposals for phase 4 of budget balancing solutions. And if we don't do that, please flag that and we will either explain why or make sure to get you that information as soon as possible. But our goal is to make sure that you know what dollar amounts are attached with every decision or every recommendation or proposal that you see here. The other one was, what are the additional budget asks that are being made or considered for this budget year? Given that SBAC is put into this process, that we get assurances that no new budget asks will be made at the June board meeting. Just transparently, staff and I had different interpretations of what this particular question was asking for. So if the person or persons who sent these questions would like to unmute and clarify, we're happy to hear that clarification now. Nicole?
Okay, cool. So I sent in the request on all this stuff. So I'll take take responsibility for the spamming of the group on this one. So overall, my request is kind of like, you know, my small brain would love a one-page snapshot of like, what's the big number? What are those different chunks we have seen or, you know, that are in various phases of approval, and what's the gap? Because I can't quite figure out what the remaining gap is that we're trying to fill. And then specifically number 4, I will admit that this comes from a bit of scar tissue that when I served on SBAC years ago, before you know, it was a tough year, and we went through a lot of hours of meetings and then of cuts, and then later in the season after school had been out, some very large new budget line items were approved, and it didn't feel right because we had spent so much time reviewing a lot of things. And so I know there's always budget asks that come in, and I appreciate that you guys have extended the SBAC calendar to include into later meetings, even in what we technically call summer. But so just that, you know, after all this work that you guys are putting in and that we're all putting in, that we just don't have a lot of surprises at the end, that would be really appreciated.
Thank you, Nicole. So I wasn't here before, but what we are trying to do is any ask that we know about, we will make sure to share with this group. For example, maybe not at this meeting, we know that we're about to adopt a curriculum. So we'll be sharing with you all the costs and the ask that comes with that curriculum. That said, what I think you're talking about is perhaps acts that came even after SBAC was meeting. And what we can do is try to figure out some way to keep you all abreast and informed of those types of asks. My hope is that does not happen. But these are crazy times, Nicole, and so crazy things happen. Just know that for what we do know and what we can anticipate, we will make sure to share with SBAC, and anything that comes up after the SBAC has voted on their recommendations for my budget to the board, I will find a way to make sure you all have that information. And if you want to, we can actually reconvene and talk about it as well. But my hope is that does not happen, Nicole, and I cannot speak to how or why it happened before. In terms of the 1, 2, 3, and 5, a one pager, we can work on that. And hopefully, Pauline, we have that. We're working on it. We worked on it, past tense. So we will make sure that, again, to keep you abreast of what these answers are individually, but also compile it into a one pager for your information. Hannah, I don't know if it's Hannah or Hannah. I'm sorry.
Hannah. Thank you. Thank you so much for addressing this up front. That's really appreciated. And I also was in conversations with Nicole, so I can share some of the blame, Nicole. But I think we have been given line items for individual budgets, our suggestions for revenue generators or cuts. but we haven't seen it all together. And I think that's really kind of like if we can keep a running tally throughout this time, because it seems like we're not close to having them add up. And I think that was part of the concern, is that we wouldn't be able to get to the target without something that we hadn't yet discussed. And I think also more clarity around the personnel, which I'm glad to see is in the slide deck, but I haven't looked carefully yet. We just got
it. So what? So Hannah and Nicole, there and some future slides. I'll try to remember to pause when we get to what we think was doing what you all were asking for, right? So Pauline typically does a screenshot of the spreadsheet that has each item itemized as well as the total, and then we also have a slide that says how close we are moving towards the target. And so when we get to those, I'll flag those just for you all to put something in the chat, perhaps, because if those are not helpful, or if they're not telling the story that we're trying to tell, and we want to get that feedback so we can figure out how to share it and show it differently. Okay. All right. Here we go. Any more questions from the floor? I'm sorry. Okay, well then here we go. So this first one, first item, next slide, please. 2 slides over, actually, Ms. Vivian. It's just one more. It's just an opportunity to update the committee over at the last meeting, I believe, and the one before that. Sam came and shared information about the March 15th notices, the reduction in force. Since those meetings on March 5th, our board did approve resolutions that identified positions that might possibly be reassigned, reduced, or completely removed from our BUS family. And so for a number of those, you only saw positions as they were in open session. And then there were others that were in closed sessions that the public did not see. What I can say and share with you is that all of our various labor unions and our employees from all different groups were noticed. Not everybody was noticed, but what I mean by that is that we noticed folks from BFT, from UBA, from BCCE and Local 21, as well as our unrepresented management staff as well. And so we've really been thinking about how we can make sure that not any one group feels that they are being, getting the brunt of the March 15th notices. What I will also share with you all, and what this visual is trying to convey, is that unfortunately, the way that our budgeting process works, as we do our budgeting process with the state, we typically do not know and do not have our budget approved until June. And what we don't want to do is wait until June to tell someone, hey, because of our budget situation, you may or may not have a position, or hey, we're going to reduce your position from a 1.0 full-time to a 0.5. In an effort to protect employees and to give them as much notice as possible, there's a legal requirement that we notify staff by March 15th that there's a possibility that their position or their FTE might change. It is just a possibility. And I know that folks have a lot of emotions. I do too. I've gotten one of these every year of my career, both when I was a teacher and when I was an unrepresented administrator. So I know that it definitely brings some level of anxiety. At the same time, I appreciate it, as I have a number of friends who are in other industries who get 2 weeks notice, or sometimes, if they're being nice, 30 days notice, and some don't even get that much, right? And so it really is intended to give folks a heads up, though I do know that it causes some level of anxiety. And it really is the fact that we cannot wait until June. Folks were like, well, can we petition to get rid of it? And what can we do? I think the only thing that I can see in terms of these notices, because some folks want to get rid of them altogether, again, as an educator, and I'm only one educator speaking, I've always appreciated the notification. What we're trying to do that I did not get as an educator, quite honestly, is an understanding of what all might happen to inform if I'm actually going to be reduced or not. So when we talk about our budget reduction strategies, we're trying to reassure you, as well as the employees, that there's going to be all these things that we exhaust before we get to them. When I got my notice, I just got my notice, and then I just had to cross my fingers and wait and see. So we're trying our best to be as responsive to the fact that this is real for many people and the ways in which it impacts them. I also want to remind you all that over or about 80% of our budget is people, and that's salary, that's their benefits, et cetera. And so as I said last year, it's going to be really hard for us to move towards another $7.6 million reduction right after having another 7 point something last year without touching people and programs. So wanted to give that update as to why, because a lot of folks keep asking why. Next slide, please, Ms. Vivian. what I should add for you all too is that this has been a long-standing law for certificated staff, and I'm a certificated staff. However, for our classified staff, they actually had a shorter time frame for notice. So not until recently has law changed to include them in the March 15th notices as well. This is just a recap of the notices that we gave out. We gave out about 182 classified notices and 191 certificated notices. And our goal is to resend these notices as soon as we can. As soon as we get data that says that, yes, we can afford and we can keep these positions, we are rescinding them. And so it looks like there's been an update that as of today, 45 of these notices have been rescinded. If you click on any one of these links, you'll see what was sent to the board so you can have a better idea of which positions are being considered for the March 15th. Ultimately the May 15th reduction. Next slide, please. Quick recap of what these notices mean. So you'll see on the left-hand side the certificated employees. If a certificated employee, and that could be teachers and subs, interventionists, our TSAs, teachers on special assignments, when they get these notices, it could actually mean one of four things. It can mean that they will be reassigned. And that was actually the vast majority of the notices for our certificated staff in this March 15th notification season. So they can be reassigned to another place. There's also temporary releases. So we have a number of folks who are certificated who, when they signed their contract, they knew that it would end. They knew that it would end, June 2nd, 2025, for example. And so this notice still has to be given to them, even if they knew. And so some of those notices are for those, what we call temporary releases. So you were a temporary employee, and we are reiterating that you will not have a position, may not have a position next year. There's also our probationary folks. They are credentialed staff who are in their first or second year. And so they also receive notices, have an opportunity to resign in lieu of notice. And then the other ones are the ones that I think most folks are talking about is the actual layoff. And about 22 people from our certificated team receive those types of March 15th notices. So just to be really clear, there's 4 different types, and the vast majority of certificated folks are about reassignment. Doesn't make it easier, doesn't make it better, but it also doesn't mean that you're losing your job or getting laid off. It means you might have a change in your work. For classified employees, this is the only type of notice. Their only type of notice is layoff. So when you saw that slide that said about 182 of our classified team members received a notice, theirs is not about reassignment. It's not about probe release. It is about being laid off. So just wanted folks to know the differences, but what is the same is the way in which it impacts folks as it brings uncertainty. And it's always hard for us because I don't want to release or lay off or reduce anyone, because as we know, and as you know directly, all of our folks are amazing and important and do great work for our district. Our job is to figure out how do we continue that work, but also be creative and think about how we might actually be able to deliver that work in a different way, if the budget says it's necessary. Next slide. In terms of who was noticed, there are folks who are noticed who are on general fund, who are on some of the other funding sources in the categories that we just talked about. But there was also people who were noticed because they're on soft funding. So we are still waiting for PTAs to make decisions. And in some ways, PTAs are waiting for us to make decisions to inform their decisions. We understand that. There are grants that have expired or expiring. We will not be responsible for people you have a job next year, knowing that we don't have the funds to pay them. And so you will find that a lot of folks who are noticed is because they are on soft money on one of these types of soft monies identified in this slide. In some cases, a position or a person was noticed. In other cases, a whole classification was noticed. Our intent, you all, is not to lay off 100 or 370 something people. Our intent, though, is to give ourselves some level of flexibility to be able to make some really hard decisions, think about where we can restructure, to think about how we can be creative about how we deliver services differently within the constraints that we have. And so those key takeaways on the right-hand side, I want to just call your attention to. This provides us some flexibility to restructure, to think creatively, and to reallocate resources. I want to remind you again that this is not final. It was just a notification of a possibility. Again, not trying to minimize the way that feels, but May 15th is when we have to let folks know if they are actually going to be reassigned or non-reelected or have a layoff. And again, it is because, in large part, because our budgeting timeline doesn't make sense and is not responsive to humans and life, and does not give them enough sufficient notice to find another job if they should choose to, if we waited until the budget was actually approved by the board. Don't forget, we get information about the budget from the governor in January. Typically by now, March, we have a pretty good idea what it's going to look like. But like Pauline told you last time, they're like, here, you got some money, but no, you don't really have it, so don't score it. So we're in a weird place this March. And not until, we also have to wait for the governor's May revise. So he actually might change things in May. And then finally in June, once we kind of understand all of those things, we have our final budget to the board and the board approves. So that process and that timeline doesn't jive for letting people know if they need to look for jobs elsewhere. No decisions have been made yet. I can say that over and over, and people still are saying, why are you getting rid of? We're not getting, we don't get rid of our people. No decisions are made. We just, again, want to give folks that heads up, and we will exhaust all options. You are in partnership with us, helping us exhaust all options before we reduce or eliminate any position in any program. We are a people business, so our programs are people, which is why positions and programs are in the same line, and that we are working really hard to rescind as many notices as possible, as soon as possible, in advance of the May 15th deadline. So that was just me. I mean, some of that you guys like, I already heard that, Inikia, I know, but I wanted to say it again because this is a lot and this is important. And we want to make sure you as members of SBAC understand why these notices went out, to who they went out, and the fact that we are really trying our best in collaboration with you to undo as many of them as possible. Any questions? Sam, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Rebecca?
Just real quick, the soft money for the PTAs, is that because they're raising the funding in real time? Or I just want to understand, like, so I know for the development group, for example, we have $80,000 that is earmarked for tutoring so that everybody knows that money is locked in a box and we can, hire people prior. And I'm just wanting to understand the difference. And I'm sorry if everyone else understands it already. Does that question make sense?
I think so. I'm not sure if I'm the best one to answer, but in terms of the PTA, the reason why we consider it soft money is because every year the PTA can choose what they want to fund. And so they may have a different amount of money that they raise each year. They may have really good years and less good years. And there may be different needs at the sites that they are trying to cover or fill based on what's going on either with our budget or with the needs of the students at that site. And so it does change every year. But the biggest piece, the reason we consider it soft money, is that until the PTA actually gives us the money, it's not in our hands. And so we can't count on it as a district. And so their only choice, if we didn't have it, would be to use unrestricted general fund, which is where we're having the lack of funds. So we need to notice those positions, and we consider it soft money because we don't have the PTA doesn't have to hand it over to us until they want to. And so the other piece to this that I do want to say that I think maybe one of the questions that comes up is in regards to PTA monies, as well as other organizations from outside, is that we have asked for them to be meeting a May 1st deadline. And the reason for that is so that we can avoid sending final notices, which are required by May 14th. And there's only one board meeting date in between those dates. And so that's the reason why we've put a May 1st date of a deadline for our outside sources, including our PTAs, to let us know what they are funding or not funding for the next year.
Vicky?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question to that response and to Rebecca's question, but then I have a separate question. So in regards to the May 1st deadline, I was going to mention that, it's difficult to do that when PTAs often write those checks to SSCs and the SSC site plans aren't due until also May 15th. So we don't necessarily know how that money is. But the other big thing is in previous years, PTAs have been allowed to sign MOUs. And this year, the indication was that a check needed to be received. Some schools fundraise a year ahead. So, for example, Malcolm X has already approved next year's budget and has that money. Other schools typically will have signed an MOU for next year with a promise for that money. And this year, MOUs were left off of that notice. And I was wondering if that's intentional, because that could definitely affect PTA's ability to create those checks and send that in. So that was my first question.
Okay, I can respond to that, Vicky.
So let me pause really quickly. So I know we're going to have, so this is and it's very relevant, but I don't know if it's necessarily relevant to all of SBAC. And so I'm going to let Pauline answer, but I'm taking notes on this, and we might have to figure out a way, Vicky and Rebecca, to kind of gather with the PTAs. This is a very specific question, right? That doesn't necessarily inform the votes and the actions that SBAC is going to take today, though I don't understand that the timelines are not matching up there either. Pauline, go ahead.
Okay, so in the past we have done commitment letters, but unfortunately in some cases there were some PTAs that didn't follow through. So we're now moving to the fact that we need to get checks, because once we have checks, we know we can pay for the positions, and we can no longer backfill if some PTAs are not able to pay for the positions. So we're no longer doing commitment letters or MOUs. We need to get the actual funding for the positions so we can make sure they will be paid for the following year. So.
Okay, so that's going to be super challenging, and we can talk about that offline for some sites. My follow-up question related to this is, in addition to SSCs also fund site positions using BSEP funds, for example, like their site allocations. And in the past, we have we're only able to use that one-time funding for materials, and we're wondering if there's a possibility, because we don't know what the PTA's monies are, we don't necessarily know what's going to be funded, for us to use one-time carryover funds to staff personnel as a one-time savings. Because if we're funding a position that gets pink slipped every year, we know it's not sustainable anyways, and it would go in our column of ongoing savings, or not ongoing savings but one-time savings, but it would potentially save some of these positions before having to send final notices on May 15th. So I don't know if the district has considered allowing carryover funds for this one-time emergency funding crisis only, to allow us to use that to help with these FTEs. And so I just wanted you guys to explore and come back with that, because I think that would help site councils figure out how to allocate and spend their dollars, so that those notices don't have to go out by those deadlines.
Okay, we can bring that back.
Thank you, Vicky. Rita, and then Hannah. Hannah, your hand's up again. Yes, I didn't double count. Okay, perfect. Rita.
This is sort of following up along that as well, which is this might be a good time to have a conversation about this with PTAs, of what would be ideal to have. I mean, not this year, this year is, we're in it now, but moving forward, if PTAs heard that, you can stop a very small portion of those pink slips from going out by sending your check in by this date, that might be motivating enough to get PTAs to change how they're doing things.
Copy. Thank you, Rita. And I know we just had a PTA council meeting just the other day, but we might try to figure out if we can grab folks together to see if we can have this important conversation. I'm going to go with Hannah, and then I'm going to we got to move towards that target, y'all. Hannah?
Sorry if I missed it, but is there a place in this deck or in the memos that says how much the salaries amount to for the positions that were pink slipped? Because I think the idea is that this provides budget flexibility, but I'm curious, like, how much how much would be saved, especially excluding anything that's PTA funded.
Yeah, so we do not have a slide for that tonight, Hannah. We just have the list. We do actually have, I had just got a pie chart that shows the breakdown of our salaries and what funding source it comes from. We do not have it to the detail that you're asking for, but we can definitely bring that back to the next meeting if folks feel that's helpful. But
that would be very, very
Yes.
helpful, because those are, I mean, I'm assuming this is part of the budget balancing options. And so that would be useful for us to know.
Yes, I will do that for you. And I will add that pie chart maybe in the appendix, and you all can refresh your screens later. I'm going to close the window. Remember, I used to close the window, y'all. The window is closing on the March 15th notices, but appreciate folks for being creative and thoughtful around how we can continue to do what we've been trying to do, which is rescind as many of those as soon as possible. And Rita and Di and Vicky will be following up to figure out how we can convene the PTA leadership to figure out how to address the timeline issue and to generate some ideas of how you all can help us move to get more folks off that list. So with that, I'm going to close this window and we're going to move to the budget balancing part of this agenda. I'm going to let Pauline give a very brief update on where we are with the governor's block grants. Next slide, please, Ms. Vivian. And then we're going to move into the chunk of the work.
Okay, thanks, Anikia. So I went to the Alameda County Office of Ed's meeting for CBOs, or Chief Business Officials. And the update that we got from school services is that still no additional information about how much we're going to be funded, but they think it's likely it's going to be more restricted. So the uses are going to be more restricted, and it's also going to be possibly tied to UPP, which, as you know, we are at like hovering around 30%. So still not known, but we know they don't think it's going to be like totally unrestricted and just given everybody given a per ADA amount. And as you may remember, ours was $3 million. But again, we cannot score any of that as a budget balancing solution. And it is one-time funding. So whatever we get, and if we get anything, it will be one-time funding. So that's my brief update.
I know that was a question that Vicky had at the last meeting. So Vicky, there's your answer. It's one time, and we will update the slide. Next slide, please, Ms. Vivian. We'll update the slide to reflect the highlights of what Pauline just shared. Likely not unrestricted, and it is one time and still not to be scored. Next slide. Okay, folks, I hope you ate your Wheaties and did all the things, because you're about to move into some decision making. Remember, your role as SBAC is to make recommendations to me that ultimately are considered as I create the budget to present to the board. So I want to ground us in one, the fact that stormy weather itself is not a bad thing. Is if we are not prepared, that makes it problematic. And so we are doing that as a committee, getting ourselves prepared for not just next year, but the out years as well. Also reminding you that there are likely no solutions. We can do anything, we cannot do everything. And most decisions that we make during this day or during our time together this spring will be about trade-offs. We want to continue to make sure that whatever we do and everything that we do is aligned and in service of our mission and the 4 E's. Next slide. And that we're always asking ourselves, how are we really making decisions and even engaged in conversations rooted in these core values: equity, transparency, excellence, engagement. And the big one probably right now for this group to hold is sustainability and stability. Thinking about the PTA conversation and the soft dollars, like we do not want to put people on sources that we know might change, on resources that might change every year. But similarly, we don't want to make decisions that we cannot maintain and hold for multiple years in service of our students and our school sites. Also, on the right-hand side of the screen are our strategies that we engage in. No particular order, except the number one blue rectangle is always the first thing we do. And the last blue rectangle is the last thing that we want to do. We're going to be sharing with you some of the budget proposals that we've engaged in across these strategies. We're going to be getting your feedback one more time. Answering your questions about them one more time. And then we're going to be asking you to make a vote. Next slide, please. Pauline, this is Pauline's roadmap. I don't know why she thinks it's a roadmap. This is another like a road or a map to me, but she's a finance person, so you have to give her grace. Go ahead, Pauline, your roadmap.
This is my financial roadmap, and I think this will go a long way to answering some of the questions that Nicole had. So we started off with a target of 7.6 million, and this is still when we presented the second interim. We were still at $7.6 million. And then We also have a column for 26, 27, but where our focus is 25, 26. And then we started looking at budget balancing solutions. So on February 26th, we presented a slide of budget balancing solutions for the unrestricted general fund. That was $1.3 million. Since that, we have evaluated those proposals and determined that $211,500 should no longer be considered as a proposal. And these amounts were actually in the amounts that were condensed. So you wouldn't have even seen the total of these that we're removing. We will be presenting the corrected 1,080,000 for everybody to vote on as well. And I'm pleased to say that that would have all the positions and everything that was condensed in either programs or positions. You will now have a chance to look at and evaluate all positions and programs. And then phase 2 was presented on February 26th. That was $2.6 million. So we're actually about halfway to our $7.6 million target. We still need to find $3.8 million, either in ongoing or one time. We prefer ongoing. And so where we are after phases 1 and 2, revised phase 1 and phase 2, we are at $3.8 million. And as Anika mentioned, we're going to ask the committee to take a temperature check in terms of do you think these should be moved forward, or yes, no, or not no. So we have voting on each of these proposals. So next slide. Any questions before I move on? I think it's pretty straightforward. So Anika, you want to take the next slide?
This is just another reminder slide, friends, that our role is to come up with as many proposals that we can collectively to balance our budget. We are going to then think about which of those proposals are actually viable. Viable meaning they actually make sense, can be done, don't break any laws, and continue to move us towards our mission and our 4 E's. We're not going to stop there. Once we get a set of viable options, we're going to start adding to this category of viable options this afternoon. We will revisit all of the options that we've said were viable to figure out which ones are the best and which ones we actually want to move to inform the budget that I take forward to the board. And so I say that tonight to encourage you to really vote on the things that you think are actually viable, but also let you know that just because you vote on it this evening and it goes into the bucket of viable options, if you will, it does not guarantee that it's going to be a package option that actually informs the budget I take to the board. We will come back as an SBAC and re-vote on all the things we said were viable. We'll prioritize them to then inform your recommendations towards my final budget to the board. Next slide, please. And so again, this slide should be familiar. This was not the Purity Financial roadmap, but it was our attempt to show you how and what we've done in each of these strategies for each of the phases. Phase 1 and phase 2 is actually incomplete, but it's okay because Pauline's going to talk to you about each phase and give you some updates before asking you to vote. Next slide. I'm sorry, click please for me, Ms. Vivian. So today's task, no, go back. Today's task is we're going to review phase 1 and phase 2 quickly. She's going to highlight updates. You could ask your questions, you can get clarification. We've discussed most all of these. Then we're going to ask you to vote on them. So we're not going to break up phase 1 and phase 2. We're going to go through phase 1, see if there's any questions, through phase 2, see if there's any questions or clarifications, and then vote on all of the items in phase 1 and phase 2 together. And then should time allow, we're going to present to you some proposals for what we're calling phase 3, our budget balancing. And with that, and for the next chunk of this meeting, Pauline is taking the wheel.
Thank you, Anika. Next slide. So what I thought I would do, I would remind people what you saw on February 26th. So on February 26th, we brought proposals to you totaling $1.3 million for the unrestricted general fund. But you can see like just above the first yellow bar going across, we had various that totaled $749,000. and that was consolidating or removing expenses. And of that, 600,800 benefited the unrestricted general fund, and other funds were impacted by that as well. We also had, and that was central office. We also had a school site item for 161,500. That amount is removed and will not be considered in phase one anymore. And that was the adjustment I shared on the roadmap. So, so on the next slide, this is the revised amount with the corrections. So what did we correct? We removed one program that we determined was it was $50,000. It was funded on carryover. So even removing it will not benefit the unrestricted general fund or any other program. And then we also removed the site position that was, I don't think it has a dollar amount, but no. So so we're now looking at the 1,080 that we'll be voting on this evening. So next slide. This next slide, and can you guys see that pretty easily? If not, you can use your own, you have a magnifying button that you can use to kind of make it bigger if you want to be able to see it. So so what this slide does, it's the temperature check file, if you will, slide. And then what it does, it actually expands the positions that were in the 749. They are now from 107 all the way down to 70,000. If you total those amounts, you will get the 60,000, the 600,000 for the general fund, or the 749 for the total positions. So what we're going to do now, we have quite a few line items, and for each line item, we're going to, if you have any questions before deciding, we can go through them. And actually, why don't I give you a minute to review these, because from the 107,380 is actually new information for you guys. So why don't you take a minute to look at these before asking you to actually evaluate them. Yes, Vicky.
Being that this is our first time seeing all this list, can you go through them real quick so we know if we have any questions before we vote? Because I just reading it, I don't necessarily know what all of them are.
Have you looked at it, Vicky?
I am. I'm looking at it. So it says like executive assistant 1, clerical assistant 3. Like I don't know where that is, or like budget analyst 1. But obviously, you know, we're having a budget crisis. Does that make sense? Eliminate extra hours. Whose extra hours?
That one was not hidden. So you already got the 30,000, and we already discussed that. The items from 107 down was in one line item, the 749,
yeah,
and the 600. So we can revisit these. I mean, so I can speak to some of these positions. Sam can speak to some, and we have other people who are actually supervising some of these positions are here as well. So I'm not sure. I can start from the beginning and continue. But Steve, you have a quick question?
Yeah, am I the only one that doesn't know where the magnifying feature is?
Oh, if you click on the actual on the slide, you'll see a little magnifying thing, a zoom
on the bottom right,
on the side, on the bottom right of it.
Click on the screen where you see her slide. On the bottom right, you'll see a magnifying, and you could expand it 100 to all the way to as much as you want. You see it? It's gonna be a kind of light, a light white. This is the problem with in person, because I was just going to say, someone go help Steve, but I can't say that because who Steve was with.
I can't find it this time either, just so you know. I wonder.
So if you click on the actual document, and then if you go over to the right, there's a little circle with a little plus inside, and you can zoom. If you need
so if I go to click on Pauline's presentation that she's showing right now in Google Meet, I can click on, there's a little magnifying glass with a plus. But also the deck is in, we shared the deck. So if you're looking at the actual deck, then you are going to be looking at slide number 24. Ms. Mildred?
So what?
Ms. Mildred?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So what, just looking at this list, what if there are a couple of positions on here in the phase one that there's questions about, so that you don't want to vote on because there, you have questions?
Yeah. So what? Go ahead, Annie.
So we're going to go through to Vicky's request. We're going to name each position. This is the first time you've seen this expanded view. So when we discussed it last time, you couldn't really engage in real discussion about it.
Yes.
If you have a question about it, we can try to answer it now. If when we get to voting, folks are like, I don't feel comfortable voting for this, or that you would even like to ask the group, please let's not vote on this because until we get more clarification, we can hold that and bring it back to the next meeting.
Thank you for that.
So if you look at the screen there, the last column is yes, no, or need more information. I think we're going to take the poll of everybody in the meeting and get a feeling for, is it mostly yes, is it mostly no, or is it mostly need more information?
And I would encourage particularly our labor partners who are in the room, actually for anyone, but particularly our labor partners in the room and staff, if you get to an item where you are just like, we don't have enough information, because some of our community members and our partners might not know that inside, right? If you could just request that we hold that vote. So I hear, Pauline, we are going to go with majority, but if most of the folks who don't know about it, don't know why we would pause on that vote, they might say, let's move forward. And you all might know more information that would encourage the group to pause. So we will have that option once we get there. Someone else's hand just went up. I missed it.
Beatrice. And so I think it may be a good idea for us to go through all the positions, because Vicky demonstrated she forgot we had talked about the extra hours. So we'll just go through each one.
Yeah, we'll go through each one, but I want to make sure, I want to get Ms. Beatrice's question, and then Regina's, and then we'll get going. Ms. Beatrice?
And I'm going to, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when you're describing who's going to assume the position, especially now when DEI is really going down the drain and on federal level, why our district would release on equity and achievement and belonging, I don't know, or anything that related to diversity and equity.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So,
and then Regina?
I think Pauline's going to go through this, but I just wanted to make sure that the yellow balancing solutions, it says the VA stands for vacancy. Like that means it's just been open and not filled, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's. I'll let Pauline go through it. Thank you.
Okay.
And Pauline, you want to start from the very beginning, or are you just doing the?
I think it's probably helpful to start from the very beginning, because we shared this back in February.
Copy.
And people. So I'm going to have Sam actually present with me, because Sam can put it together.
I'll do it with you too. So I just want to start with the director of equity, achievement, and belonging. As you all know, that this position has been vacant for the entirety of this year, and making sure that we are engaging in equitable practices and equity as a concept and as a belief system, and making sure that our students are able to achieve across their diversities, and making sure all of our students feel welcome and belonging is not just exclusive to one person, one department, or one team. And so we have spread that work. Some of what's underneath this person's purview was the various affinity groups, as well as the different heritage months, et cetera. That work has continued. It's been picked up by different ones of us at the central office staff, myself included. But in terms of thinking about our focal populations, thinking about who is not served, and thinking about how we can continue to improve how we engage our different, student populations as well as community groups, that work has continued, but again, has been kind of divvied up, if you will, Ms. Beatrice. But I believe that it's nice to have a person who's the director of it. But we also know there's a lot of tropes and traps that folks get into when they talk about equity by assigning it to a person and thinking it's someone else's job. And it's really the job of all of us. And so we've been able to kind of continue, if you will, to have this focus this year. We would love to have someone in the position, but given our budget constraints, we have to continue to make it all of our responsibility and not name a person. And since the position has been vacant, we thought we would go ahead and recoup the dollars that were encumbered, but not at all saying that we were not going to continue to value and move towards making sure that our district continues to really believe in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So that's why that one is there. If funding changes and we are able to, we would love to have someone who kind of holds those pieces all together and brings us all together, but the work is still happening in different departments. And it's myself and Jill Hogan-Dyke who's really been overseeing this work in the absence of the Director of Equity, Achievement, and Belonging. So that is a vacancy for the larger group, and that is what we're proposing to remove, as it has not been filled for some time now. We also have a teacher on special assignment. That is the district response to intervention. That also has been a vacancy that has existed at least for the duration of this year. And so proposing that we would remove that one. Jill, I'm not sure if you're here, if you want to say more about the fact that it's a district position and how that not having that position going forward would impact the work that we do regarding RTI.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Happy to answer that question. So what we're seeing is that it's not going to impact the work. We've done a bit of reorganizing. That position has actually been vacant for most of the time when I got here. I think it was vacant. We hired somebody who was in the position for a couple of months, and then they left for another position, and it's been vacant. We know that we've got Lena Sweeney as the new director for Brea. She and her team are the ones that convene our RTI TSAs on a monthly basis, and she's really taken on the work to plan and prep, particularly with the alignment with our emerging MTSS plan. So all of that work is moving forward, and we haven't needed that additional capacity for that TSA.
Sam, the human resources technician reduction, that's not an elimination, that's just a vacancy, or is reducing from 1.0 to 0.5?
Correct. And it's been vacant off and on throughout this year. We've had, I think, 4 different people that have tried the position on for size and have left. But that we are looking at reducing that from the budget perspective.
Mildred, I'm going to pause and see if you have clarifying questions over the 3 items we just introduced, or if there's something else that because we're going down the list. So is there a clarifying question for these 3? Ms. Mildred? Uh-oh.
Sorry, I was just talking. I can hold my comment. I don't have a question. I have more of a comment. So I can just wait until you go down the list and then make my comment towards the BCCE positions that I have comments for.
Copy. And none of those, the 3 that we just discussed, were those one of the 3 that you had a comment regarding?
The human resource technician, I do have a concern for. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, make it now, please.
The human resource technician, BCC does not agree with reducing that to a 0.5 due to the nature of that position and the workload that will fall on other employees that's in that office, because it's a lot of work, and there's no way that we can reduce that position to a 0.5.
Copy. Thank you for that. The next line item, and so that's been noted. So I said thank you and not trying to be, that is noted. And so
I got you. Thank you.
Okay, and I hope the committee heard that feedback as well. So when it's time to vote, if you want to pause on that one, that might be one that you pause on, given what Ms. Mildred just shared. We're moving to reassign staffing to enrollment at Hopkins and Franklin. I'm not sure, Sam, would you like to speak to this one? Unmuted though. Would you like to speak unmuted?
Sorry. Due to our various moves that happened this last summer, our preschool program went from 3 sites to 2 sites. So they are currently only at Hopkins and Franklin. They currently have 3 clerical admin, which is actually school admin assistant 2 positions. And this is a proposal to reduce down to only 2 instead of 3.
Okay.
Also, just significantly, our PK population is decreasing. So right now we currently have space for 300 students, and we've been enrolled at about 189. We have seen a significant uptick in the number of our TK students. So what we're noticing is that, we've got a shrinking PK population, but an increasing TK population, which is what we anticipated with the state's alignment to move more students into TK.
Okay, and I just want to point out, if you look at column F, unrestricted general fund, we're actually not scoring anything there. That's scored as an other fund, because the general fund will not benefit from this particular reduction. or this particular realignment, it will be Fund 12. So we're trying to score as many things as we can and then identify which ones actually benefit the unrestricted general fund.
My Path High School platform for a total of 15,000, and that's an elimination of an expense. I'm not sure if Max is here. Pauline, would you like to speak
That's
to this
not
one?
mine.
Okay, Jill.
That's
Jill.
mine.
Okay, sorry.
Hi. Yeah, so this was something that we had tried out at the secondary grade levels. There was, but there wasn't a lot of uptick. It's a platform that enables teachers to use data and identify the standards that are missing. Now that we're working on a whole district alignment toward assessment and data, and we've got a vertical pathway using STAR and EduClimber, this is an expense we can take off the table.
Thank you. The next item is reduce LCAP support contract, which is about 65,000, Jill.
Yeah, so we currently have been working with an outside contractor for support on the LCAP that's been partially paid for out of general funds and partially out of grant funds that are expiring. As we're building the capacity for our departments and a stronger cross-functional partnership, we're going to be able to take that work on and do that internally.
Sorry, eliminate BSEP PD conference and digital equity initiative. I think we spoke about this one before.
That one.
Pauline?
Yeah, this is the hotspots. This is Max's IT's proposal. There are costs that were and this benefits BSEP, not the general fund, but Max is proposing that costs that he had that was previously paid by for BSEP is not required anymore, and he's proposing that we can save $50,000 from BSEP.
Eliminate extra hours. This is the one that Vicki had a question about too, Pauline.
So that one is we currently have a retiree working in business services, reconciling items. She'll be done with that project at the end of this year. So we will no longer need to pay for this cost in the upcoming years. It was a limited assignment.
Okay, so now we're moving into the expanded view of the section where we were consolidating and removing positions. This is new information. So administrative assistant 2 and the equity and belonging, it's the equity and belonging assistant. Remember that one of our proposals is to go ahead and close the vacancy for the director of equity, achievement, and belonging. And with that, we are proposing to consolidate or remove the administrative assistant 2 from that department. I don't know if Jill or Sam would like to speak to this one. Or did I do it?
It's basically a position that's supporting a non-existent director at this point. So that is why we're looking at removing the position and relocating the staff member.
Thank you, Sam. The next one is the student assessment specialist. Reduce that position from 1.0 to 0.5, and that is in the Brea department. Sam or Jill? That one's pretty self-explanatory, but I don't know if you all want to say something more about it. I'm going to pause real quick because I know that Ms. Mildred now knows the drill, so I assume that her question or clarification is regarding the positions we just spoke about. Ms. Mildred? Unmute.
I'm so sorry. It's going, I really want to comment towards the storekeeper position.
We are not there yet. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Mildred. I see a hand from Vicki and one more hand, Vicki. I feel like I need to do another slide about how to
in regards to the Brea position at P&O, we just reviewed their proposal. So I guess my question is had that department had time to potentially take this to note if they wanted to use outside funding for this, or was there a response from that department on whether or not that this would be okay, like how they would continue to be able to function. And then my second question in regards to equity and belonging assistant, I thought I heard Samantha say that we would be moving that person to another position. So I'm unclear how we're actually saving that salary if that person's being moved to another position and not completely laid off. So if you could address both of those.
I'll start with the second question and then go back to the first one.
Yeah.
So the second question, the reason we are able to save is that we have vacancies right now. So that person would be filling in another position that is vacant that we do need.
Okay.
And so that's how we would save the money for the admin assistant too.
And that would be the same, for example, with a TSA. They would be moved into a vacant position if a TSA, I know that's
any of
vacant,
our
but-
positions, any of the
Okay.
positions, if we have a vacancy, we
Okay.
will attempt to move that person into that vacancy, because our goal is not to have a bunch of unemployed people.
Right. Okay.
So we want to keep all of our people. So the in regards to the Brea position, the department has considered it. The main reason for this consideration is that the position was created and the job description is very specialized in terms of paper and pencil testing, which we do not do anymore. So that this person was created to help stick stickers on testing books and make sure pencils were sharpened. So we don't need that function anymore. And so that's why this position is on the list for consideration.
Apologies. Had two more hands in the queue. I don't know if this is in order, but Renee, I see your hand, so I'm going to go ahead and call on you. And apologies if someone else had their hands up before.
Yeah.
Renee and Denise.
Yeah, I was just curious, is that admin assistant position also support OFI office? Because I know that they were working together at one point, so I'm not sure if that's changed.
So I think, Jill, if you could answer that one, I'm not sure if they are.
Yeah, yeah. So the original, when I came into the district 3 years ago, the Equity, Achievement, and Belonging department was new. And so we hired an admin assistant to help support the work of the department. Much of that work has been distributed. So that did include support for the OFI team, but now the work of the department, there's no director that the admin assistant is reporting to, and the work of that original department has been distributed across many departments, at least 4. So that's we don't have that function.
Denise?
Yeah, so since the work has been distributed between various departments for the OP director, does that mean that the admin assistant work will be distributed across those same departments? Because then that's adding more work onto someone else.
So we do not have an OFI director. We have a supervisor that's, as you know, is part of the student services department. So the work of the Equity, Achievement, and Belonging department has been distributed across multiple departments, and that work is getting absorbed by those departments. And yeah.
So then that's my question, the work of the admin assistant that would have been under the director or even with the supervisor, where's that work going? Who will be doing that work of the admin assistant?
Right. So Renee's question was really about the ways in which removing that admin assistant would impact OFI, because OFI originally was in that department. I see your point, Ms. Denise, sorry. But OFI, there was not a huge load from OFI that assistant was addressing or supporting. So even though OFI was in that department, the majority of work that person or that assistant would have been or was doing was supporting the director role that has been vacant again for the past year. And so we've now had a year without that director and a year with OFI under student services, and have not seen a significant need for an admin assistant to support OFI, as again, we have a supervisor that dedicated to that team that does a lot of the support directly.
And OFI has not had a clerical by itself in its prior incarnation prior to the creation of the department.
Beatrice, sorry.
Just looking at the whole thing in terms of elimination of positions, and that there's also a savings in taxes and in benefits, and that's not here. Is that already embedded into that salary?
It's embedded.
It's already embedded. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for those questions. I'm going to keep going to the items on the list. The last one I believe that we stopped at was the admin assistant, the specialist for Brea. We're now moving on to the storekeeper, and the proposal there is to reduce the storekeeper. There's one storekeeper in the district from 0.8 to 0.5. Ms. Mildred, I know you had a comment about that.
Right.
I'm going to ask you to unmute. I'm going to let Pauline first, and then Ms. Mildred.
Well, actually, I'm going to have Daniel Blackmer, who supervises that position.
Thank you, sir.
He can provide an explanation. Daniel?
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me. So I supervise this position. I just wanted to say this is kind of more of a realignment as to the workload of the position. It's been 0.8 FTE for the past fiscal year, and we really haven't had enough work to fill it in that role. And so I'm really just kind of bringing this in line as to what the position actually has as far as workload.
Thank you, Ms. Mildred. I know you had a comment.
Thanks, Daniel.
Yes, thank you for that. So BCCE has a huge concern with reducing this position again this year from a 0.8. So first, this position has always been a 1.0. Then last year, it was reduced to a 0.8. We had a concern then and brought the concern to the board. And now this year, here we are again, reducing it from a 0.8 to a 0.5. So we will be bringing it back to the board. And it is just one position in the whole district that deals with, the storekeeper and all the duties that the storekeeper does. In addition to that, when the delivery driver is out, the storekeeper is the person that takes on the sub work and takes on the work of the delivery driver. So there's many aspects to this role other than just being the storekeeper that needs to be taken into account. I don't want to get into it all right here because it's really not the platform and I can go on and on, but I do want everyone here the recommendation to hold off on making any recommendations regarding this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mildred. Thank you for catching yourself. I knew she can go on and on, but I appreciate you for raising that because I think it is important for the committee to at least know that the members have some reason for pause. And so you might think about that when we get to vote on this item. So our next item, we have the storekeeper certificated professional development coordinator. It is currently a 1.0, and our proposal is to reduce that to a 0.5 position. I'm not sure who's speaking to that from my team. But it is now on the floor for explanation.
I can speak to it, and then we can call on Steve. So this position was created when Barrow was passed, and it's been a part of the plan to.
Thank you
for designated areas or of the whole house.
Ms. Paula, can you mute?
I just schedule my robot to vacuum the kitchen every weeknight at 9 p.m. The Shark Ion.
Paula. Oh, yeah. I think we're good. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Paula.
All right. So this position was created when we had BARA funds were first allocated. It was created to address a need to help provide professional development for our classified staff. And we are looking at a redistribution, a reallocation of these tasks, and we are in the process of looking at that. And but we are looking at reducing the position from a 1.0 to a 0.5. And again, it's not general fund; it's BARA funds.
Steve, I see that your hand is up. I am going to ask if everyone can please mute their devices. I know some of y'all are challenged to get unmuted, but let's just mute it and see what happens. Steven?
I'm having a hard time with my mic.
Yeah. So are we saying there is a lack of work here, or we're redistributing some of the work elsewhere on this position for the PD?
Yep. Let me pause on that one, Steve. I think that's something that we can discuss off of this line, because we know that matters. I will just make sure the committee knows that Stephen, I'm assuming that maybe you also have some reason for pause on this one. And so acknowledging that, and want the committee to acknowledge that there is reason for pause from our Local 21 membership on this particular item. We will discuss this position and answer Steve's specific questions at an off, not here, at a different place. But Steve, your pause is noted. And your request for clarification. Sorry, thank you. All right, here we go, friends. The next one is Budget Analyst 1, and that is to consolidate or remove. Pauline?
I'm going to have Emily, do you want to address this or?
Sure, I can speak to that. So this is a role, we have several roles performing the same duties on our team, and moving from our old financial system to our new financial system a couple of years ago. The new system is called Escape, has more efficiencies in the system. And so we think that given the current system we're working in, that we would be able to cover the workload with one fewer person on the team.
Beatrice. Okay, so that is the entirety of that expanded section.
No, you have 3 more.
Oh.
You have Executive Assistant 1.
I apologize. That one says close, remove vacancy. Executive Assistant 1.
We changed it. Sorry.
Yeah, that one was so that's a vacant position that has been vacant since created. And we are proposing to eliminate the position, and it is a savings to general fund.
Scrolling to see if there's any hands. The next one is a clerical assistant 3.
Yeah, I can speak to that one. This has to do with a position that does a lot of handles a lot of paperwork, and with the efficiencies that we're having with Escape and introducing a more of a paperless environment, we're thinking that we will not need this assistance moving forward in 25-26.
Okay, Pauline, I don't want to mess up again. Did I exhaust this list of phase 1 proposals?
No, they were all consolidated and removed, but we have since added different. We've changed the categories.
No, I understand that. I'm sorry. My question is, did I go through all of the different items?
There's one more.
The last one is 70,000, and that's also mine. This is a changing the funding and aligning the funding with the work that this person actually does. So we will be moving the some of the expenses from the general fund to another fund. So it's not a reduction in position, it's a transfer of expenses to another position. Yes, Nicole?
I apologize. I was doing some math when we talked about the storekeeper position. That looks like $197,000 position if 0.3 equals $58,000. So I apologize. I didn't hear what the reason was that we wanted to wait on that one.
We have some of our labor partners have some questions and concerns about that recommendation. So we're going to circle back with them. And then if the committee chooses to, we want to, Ms. Mildred has asked that the committee pauses on that particular discussion and decision until we have that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, the number looks high. Nicole will double check that and adjust it as needed.
Yes, because that's not correct. I don't think she said the right amount, Ms. Nicole.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't hear you. I was like doing some math in the background. So
we know you be multitasking in these meetings, Ms. Nicole. Okay, so friends, this is what we're gonna do because I'm a teacher and I pivot based on what I see is necessary. So I am gonna ask Ms. Vivian, not just yet, to refresh her screen. Not yet. I'm actually gonna change up, Pauline. We're gonna take a vote on phase 1 because we're also getting close to time and we got to get something done. So as opposed to going through all of phase 1 and phase 2, let's go ahead and do some voting for phase 2. I'm going to ask that Miss Vivian, I'm just changing the color, that Miss Vivian refresh her screen now, and we will ask folks to vote, and I'm going to explain how the vote's going to take place. In the meantime, I did see a hand. I think I saw a hand. I thought I heard a hand.
That was a mistake. Sorry.
Steve is making mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to refresh, and she's gonna show her screen for us, please. We're gonna pause here, friends, and we're going to vote on the items in phase one. And as soon as Vivian shares her screen, I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna do it. So I want to remind folks, we have a number of folks who are here. Thank you, welcome for being here. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for being here and welcome, who are not SBAC voting members. At this point, we're going to ask that you please respect our process and please not raise your hand or put up any gesture or anything in the chat as SBAC is voting. Recall, SBAC, that there are items that some members of our committee have asked the committee to pause on, and you will have that option when it's time. Next slide, please. Miss Vivian, I want to just remind the folks of how we're going to vote, and then we'll go backwards to the screen. Here we go. We are going to say the line item. If you want it to be a yes, you're saying yes, we can advance this item as a budget balancing solution to be considered for the final budget. Remember, it's still not final because we're going to vote again on the things that we put into this category. But if you are fine with this item and you will be okay if I took this as a budget reduction or budget balancing strategy and include that in my final budget, you're going to say yes. You're going to show that by a thumbs up. If you are saying no, this is not a budget balancing solution that I want to consider in the final budget, then you're going to put a thumbs down. No is not the same as need more information. So if you are not ready to vote, you need more information, or you're just undecided, you're going to put that cute little face that's like you're still thinking, and that means need more information. I encourage you to not vote no or yes if you're not ready to vote no or yes. If you have an item where you're like, I might want to put it in the final, but I'm still unsure because Ms. Mildred said this and Steve said that and Sam said this, then do not vote no. Please vote need more information. The things that are voted no on, we will say SBAC does not want to explore anymore. Doesn't mean that I won't explore it because your job is making recommendations to me, but we want to really hear the voice of SBAC. So yes is a thumbs up, voting members only. No is that thumbs down. You don't want to vote on it yet. You want to pause because you need more information or you're just unsure, is the question mark. Now, this is not Zoom, and I'm still Zoom brained, so I'm going to see how this works. If we find that it doesn't work, we're going to regroup and have to do straight roll call. No, actually, Nicole, you are a Google Meet expert. If we put our thumbs up, I should be able to see everyone's thumb in the participant list, correct?
Yes, and I believe Kathy knows better than I do too that they should give you a count as a
okay
manager.
Let's see. Now here come all the thumbs. Okay, so Natasha and Rebecca said that it works. Let's see if it works. Now Steve's stop playing. Let me tell you, there are only 3 signals, y'all. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or the little thinking thing, Steve. Oh gosh. Here we go. This is a very rowdy group. All right, y'all ready? Miss Vivian, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Pauline, are you ready? Say yes, Pauline. Pauline, we need you.
Yes, I was saying yes. I'm muted. Sorry.
Oh gosh, that's gonna be the next lesson. Okay, so we're gonna start. Pauline, would you like me to call the item, or would you like to call it?
Can you call it? Because I'm gonna be doing the scoring.
Okay, here we go. It's 4:28, friends. If you can stay a little bit longer to get at least this phase voted on, we'd really appreciate it. All right, here we go. The first item that I see is the remove the vacancy for the Director of Equity, Achievement, and Belonging. Go ahead and vote now, please.
Jesus. Can you see?
People
are doing.
Did it work, Pauline?
I can't see how many people are thumbs up.
It's not on the participant list and it's going away. But if you do raise hand, that will stay on the participant list. And Pauline has the ability to lower everyone's hand.
Yeah, thumbs up only stays for a short amount of time.
Yeah, the problem with the raised hand is that then we can't get if it's a no, and we have to make sure everybody votes. Okay, so we're gonna do roll call vote. Vivian, I'm sorry, we got to do roll call. Ready?
You put it on the chat, and does it record it for you? I don't know. I'm trying to think of an alternative.
I think the roll call is the best way to do it because I'm only going to call on voting members. So that first question,
So the director of remove the vacancy for the director of equity, inclusion, and belonging.
Can I offer just one a shortcut that we've been doing in a couple meetings that might be useful here, and that is, anybody who is not in favor, raise their hand.
Yeah, but we have to make sure we
Well,
got every single person and voting members only.
So,
okay.
PTA, is anyone from PTA?
Yes.
So that's a yes.
That's a thumbs up.
Okay, Vicki Davis,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Jessica, or Natasha?
Yes.
Yes.
For Pat, only one vote for Pat.
Oh,
So Jessica or
Yes.
Natasha?
Yes. Sorry, they're the old Pat co-chair was Natasha. It's going to be just Jessica from now on.
Okay, and then we have DLAC. There's OZ. Is anyone from DLAC? And then Dan Lindheim. He's not here. Jenny Morgan. Rebecca Levinson.
Yes.
Alrighty. Natasha.
Other Natasha, yes.
Beatrice.
Yes. Beatriz.
Mildred.
Yes.
Yazid.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Matt Meyer.
Yes.
Regina.
Yes.
Steve Collins.
Yes.
Renee Molina.
Yes.
Okay, so we can move to the next one.
Did you call my name? John Jackson?
On my list, Sean, you guys have 3 votes, and Yazid, Frank, and Mildred are the voting people.
Okay.
You're an alternate when someone's missing.
Got it.
If that's incorrect, let me know later and I'll change it, okay?
This is Lisa Billings. I'm the 3rd vote for BFT, but I wasn't here at the very beginning of the meeting. So I just want to make sure you know I'm here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm voting, and I vote yes.
Okay, so I've got
I also wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting because I had school. And I also vote yes.
Okay, Jules.
Next item is the remove the vacancy for RTI TSA.
So again, the PTA?
Yeah, thumbs up.
Vicki Davis.
Yes.
Nicole.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Pat.
Yes.
DLAC, no one. Dan's not here. Jenny Morgan, not here. Rebecca Levinson, G-Shack.
Yes.
Natasha, Beery.
Yes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
Mildred.
Yes, ma'am.
Yazid.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Matt Meyer.
Yes.
Regina.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Stephen Collins. Stephen.
Sorry, yes.
Renee Molina.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. The third question.
Yep. Our next item is to remove close the vacancy for the human resources technician. That would be reducing that vacancy from a 1.0 to a 0.5 FTE. Remember, this is the one that Ms. Mildred, Ms. Mildred, did you ask the committee to pause on this one? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Please pause. Please do not vote on this one.
Thank you.
Absolutely not. No. Pause.
Okay, mute yourself, Ms. Mildred. So Ms. Mildred asked the committee to not vote. Are we okay with pausing on this vote? Show me with the thumbs up or thumbs down. Thank you. So we've paused on this vote. The next item for you, stop with the hands, people. The next item we're moving into is we're going to eliminate expenses. First one is to realign staffing to enrollment at the Hopkins and Franklin location, to remove the clerical admin.
PTA.
Thumbs up.
Vicki Davis.
Yes.
Nicole Chabot.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Rebecca Levinson. Rebecca?
Yes, yes, sorry, yes.
Natasha Beery?
Yes.
Beatrice?
Yes.
Mildred?
Yes.
Yazid?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Regina?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Okay, the next one.
The next one is the My Path High School platform.
Thumbs up, PTA.
Vicki Davis?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Jessica?
Thumbs up.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Natasha?
Yes.
Beatrice?
Yes.
Mildred?
Yes.
Yazid?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Regina?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Okay, the next one.
Thank you. The next item is the, sorry, I can't see really well, you all, is the reduce the LCAP support contract, which is totaling about $65,000.
PTA council, yes.
Thank you.
Vicki Davis, yes.
Thank you.
Nicole, yes. Yep.
Jessica?
Pack, yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Natasha?
Yes.
Beatrice?
Yes.
Mildred?
Yes.
Yazid?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Regina? Regina?
My dog is loud. Sorry. Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Okay, the next one.
So the next one is to eliminate the BSEP PD conference and digital equity initiatives, 50,000.
PTA says thumbs up.
Vicki Davis, yes.
Nicole Chabot, yes.
Jessica, yes.
Wonderful. Rebecca Levinson?
Yes.
Natasha Beery, yes.
Thank you. Beatrice?
Yes.
Mildred?
Yes.
Yazid?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Regina?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Okay, the next one.
Eliminate extra hours, 30,000.
PTA, yes.
Vicki Davis, yes.
Nicole Chabot, yes.
Pack, yes.
Okay.
Rebecca
Rebecca?
Levinson, yes.
Natasha?
Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Beatrice?
Yes.
Mildred?
Yes.
Yazid?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Regina?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Alrighty, the next one. Consolidate or remove the administrative assistant 2 for the equity and belonging assistant, $107,350.
PTA, yes.
Vicki Davis, yes.
Nicole Chabot, yes.
Pack,
Rebecca
yes.
Levinson, yes. Oh,
Natasha Beery, yes.
yes.
Natasha?
Pack was yes.
Yes.
Beatrice? Beatrice?
Yes.
Mildred?
No.
I'm gonna need everyone to please mute their devices unless they're voting, please. Thank you.
Yazid?
No.
Frank?
No.
Matt?
Abstain.
Regina?
Needed more information. What's that? What do I say when the curiosity face icon?
Need more information.
Yeah, there you go.
More information. Am I? Lisa.
More information.
More information. Okay. Stephen.
More information.
Renee.
More information.
Okay. The next one.
Sorry. The next one is the student assessment specialist, reduced it from 1.0 to 0.5 from the Brea admin, $62,700.
PTA, yes.
Vicky Davis, yes.
Nicole Schmo, yes.
Pack, yes.
Rebecca, yes.
Natasha Berry, yes.
Yes. Mildred. Mildred.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yazid.
Yes. No, I'm sorry, Miss. I'm sorry. What position is that again?
The student assessment.
Brea. Is this the
Okay,
sharpening pencils one? I guess it was described.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Regina.
Yazid, did I call on you?
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Regina.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Renee.
Yes.
Okay, the next one.
The next one is the storekeeper position. Remember, Ms. Mildred asked that the committee pauses before voting on this one. Please give me a thumbs if you're okay with pausing on this.
Okay.
Thank you. The next one is the we're going to pause on this one. The next one is the classified PD coordinator, reducing from 1.0 to 0.5. Remember that Steve Collins had concerns and questions and asked the committee pause on this one. Please give me a thumbs if you're okay pausing. Thank you. The next item is the budget analyst 1. That's to consolidate this position, and that's a total of $143,000 and 450. Oh, you know what I'm trying to say, y'all. $143,450.
PTA, yes.
Vicky Davis, yes.
Nicole Schmo, yes.
Jesse, yes.
Rebecca, yes.
Natasha, yes.
Beatriz, yes.
Mildred.
Absolutely not. And I am so sorry. I meant to speak on that one. So absolutely not. That's the budget analyst 1, right? I missed that one. I missed that one. So no.
Yazid.
No.
Frank.
No.
Stephen. Stephen.
Who? You're supposed to do.
I'm sorry, I skipped Matt. Sorry, Matt.
Okay, more information.
Regina.
More information.
Lisa.
More information.
Stephen.
More information.
Renee.
More information.
Okay.
Okay, our next one is executive assistant 1. Close this vacancy, $131,100.
PTA, yes.
Vicky Davis, yes.
Nicole Schmo, yes.
Rebecca, yes.
Jesse LeBrandy, yes.
Natasha Berry, yes.
Beatriz, yes.
Mildred.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yazid.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Regina.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Renee.
Yes.
Okay.
The next item is clerical assistant 3. This is a consolidator. Remove the position, $90,000.
PTA, yes.
Vicky Davis, yes.
Nicole Schmo, yes.
Jesse LeBrandy, yes.
Is that Natasha's next?
Should be Rebecca.
Rebecca, yes.
Natasha Berry, yes.
Beatriz, yes.
Mildred, yes.
Yazid.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I've got to switch to my phone, so I'll be right back.
Frank,
No.
Matt,
Need more information.
Regina,
Yes.
and Lisa.
More information.
Thank you, team. Our next item is Executive Assistant 2, reduce.
I didn't
I didn't
Steven.
vote.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Steven and Renee. Steven
Yes.
and Renee.
More information.
Okay, already.
Apologies, team. The next item is Executive Assistant 2, reduced to 0.5, which is really a funding change, transferring the expenses to another fund.
ETA, yes.
$70,000.
Vicky Davis, yes.
Nicole Spo, yes.
Jesse LeBrandy, yes.
Okay.
Rebecca had to drop out for a second.
So let's go. Who's after Rebecca? Natasha.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Beatriz, yes.
Mildred. Mildred.
No.
Can I clarify that this doesn't affect anybody, right? This is just a move of budget.
Yes.
Colleen, go ahead and confirm. Yes, still a 1.0. It's just that the 0.5 of that will be funded from another source.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I
Thank you
misunderstood.
for clarifying, Steve. Thank you, Ms. Mildred, for changing your vote. For updating.
Nazeed.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Regina.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to, is it Jessica? Rebecca, I'm sorry, Rebecca, what's your, yes? Okay.
And
I
I
don't
need to
think I don't think Rebecca's back yet. Sorry.
Oh, no. So where did I leave off? Did I get Steven
You did not, and I vote yes.
and Renee?
Yes.
Okay.
Rebecca's trying to log in, but she's on her phone. So she's requesting to log in, but somebody needs to admit her.
I don't see the request. I
There's
thought
thumbs
I just
up
let her in.
from Rebecca.
I
It's
thought
weird.
I'd let her in already.
And I'm sorry, Miss Vivian, please don't be upset with me. My last vote for that clerk assistant is actually should be no, but that's me
I
trying
was
to
a
get
yes.
PT. Sorry.
Yes, he
This
does,
is Rebecca, and I'm a
Okay,
yes.
Mildred noted. Okay.
Thank you. I
Anika.
love you. Bye.
Bye. So, friends, I was going to ask if folks had the stamina to do phase 2 because it was mostly revenue generating, but I see that some of our people have to log off. Apologies, and thank you for the feedback and the ideas of how to make this process more efficient. It's going to be more efficient the next time we meet, but it's never going to be easy. So I appreciate you all and your thoughtful attention. We do have some items to bring back to you per this vote. We'll follow up in our next meeting, which is scheduled for the 16th of April, with a vote for phase 2, as well as sharing with you phase 3. And phase 3 will be bigger now because we'll have that time to add likely some things for phase 4. In the interim of that, we will send you an email that shows you a communication that shows you what the committee voted on and how they voted. And I see Rita's hand. Rita?
Just, are we back to 4 o'clock for the 16th?
I believe the 16th is 4 o'clock, correct, Pauline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I might send you all something. I might advocate for us making the meeting on the 16th a little bit longer than 5:30 because this is now time for decision time, y'all. And it's, it's hard to do it in an hour and a half. So I'm going to ask that we prepare to meet from 4 to 6 on the 16th without having checked my calendar at all and without you checking yours. And we want to have as many members as possible to vote. And again, we're going to come back to you with a more efficient voting process. Phase 2 votes, phase 3 proposals, and more good stuff is moved to the target. I appreciate y'all. I also appreciate the next week is spring break. I don't know if you're counting on it, because I need it. And I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful break. I do have videos that come out to our staff, giving them updates, and one will be coming to our staff right after spring break again. And so if you have any ideas of what to include in that for the staff members in particular and the labor partners, please send me an email. But until then, be good, be safe, and do something that makes your soul smile. Thank y'all. Bye.
Anika, I have a question. I know it's hard because you guys are working right up to the line, but I think if we could see the presentation like 3 or 4 days in advance, we could have a chance to review it and get our questions like already done, and that might make things move along quicker, and you could go faster through stuff. So if that's possible, that would be helpful.
Mickey
That's
saw that?
right. Yeah.
It is really up to the wire. We try not to put too much stuff in there new, but thank you for that. We'll see what we can do. And maybe what we'll do is we'll send it out to folks with a really big fat asterisk that says that they're like it's subject to change. Change meaning adding more, not necessarily change meaning a whole different thing. But I appreciate y'all for sticking it through and staying a little bit over to cast your votes. We're getting closer.
So let me can I just add one thing? We do have phase is that 4 now? Whatever phase this is, phase 3. So phase 3 is actually in this deck. So you can scroll through and see the beginning of that. So if you have any questions on that, you can prepare.
That's a good
for
point.
what we've already
Can
said.
we email them or should we just prepare them?
You can email them to
Okay.
Vivian.
All right. Thank you. That's
We might
great.
send a reminder of
So
that.
we can all read it.
Say it again.
But so we can all read the quest. Like if Vicky has questions, I want to see her questions.
Yeah, but I have a doc that was coming in the slides. I have a doc for that. I'm gonna just take people's names off of it because everyone doesn't want to know what they're recommending. But you'll be able to see the different recommendations that have come through.
Yeah, but it's meaningful sometimes. Like I now am quite curious about some of the no's that certain of our
No, and you will see people's questions. I won't necessarily assign a name. Sorry, I have people's recommendations and their questions, and sometimes Rita, people want to be public about what they're recommending. They like to be private. So I'll take names off, but I'll definitely make sure you guys have access to that.
Cool, thanks.
Woo! Have a good break, y'all, with the baby. Y'all got the babies for a whole week. Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
Ruh-roh.
Good night.
Hope you guys have a wonderful break as well.
Thank you, Nicole. Bye.
Bye.